quarterback questions at Ohio State? Jay Stevens thinks so. Locked On Ohio State Buckeyes joining me here on the show. Before we get to other spring game takeaways, Jay, it feels like the big news coming out of the showcase that the Buckeyes put on display with Chip Kelly, of course, as the offensive coordinator, is that there are more questions than answers at quarterback. Your thoughts?
Yeah. More questions than answers right now. That's a good way to put it. I do think the quarterback situation at Ohio State it's different than last year, to where at this time last year, Kyle McCord was the starter in the spring game. His backup, Devin Brown, was hurt, didn't play in the spring game, and Devin Brown had to recover from an injury throughout about a month and a half after spring practice concluded. So it's a little bit different when all five of your quarterbacks right now are healthy. The guys that are in contention to start for the Buckeyes in the fall, they're healthy, they're competing. And one of them is a transfer, a five-star that came from Alabama, true freshman quarterback in Julian Sayin. You got a transfer in Will Howard from Kansas State. You got Devin Brown, who's been there for a long time. Then you got Lincoln Kienholz and Aaron Nolan that are guys on the roster, but nobody thinks Kienholz or Aaron Nolan have a realistic opportunity to start this year, and I don't think it's a problem or a bad thing for their careers. I do wonder, though, what do Chip Kelly and Ryan Day value more? Is it more athleticism and ability to run, taking away a little bit in the passing game? Or is it Ryan Day's offense where Ryan Day wants an emphasis on the arm? Day didn't run a lot at all, really. Kelly's going to run a little bit. So it's more emphasis on the arm and then running a little bit more than normal. Where do the coaches stand right now? They ran a whole lot in that spring game. So I think they're going to put a little more emphasis on the athleticism and ability to run. But I know Day doesn't want to take away from the passing game either and just have a guy out there who can't make all the throws because he's really athletic. All that is to say, after the spring game, I don't really know who has the upper hand right now because the coaches, no matter what they saw, we really didn't see one guy show that he is head and shoulders above everybody else. So we're going into the summer like we did last year, not sure who QB1's going to be.
Yeah, and it's a curious situation because Will Howard was going to go to USC. Miller Moss scared him off, and Moss is, I presume, going to be the starter over there at USC. They brought in a transfer, Jaden Mayaba, from UNLV, but I expect that to be Miller Moss's job. And so Howard ends up at Ohio State. And when you bring in a guy who is that experienced, I think the only quarterback I can think of in the last couple of years who has transferred to a power school and ended up being a backup after starting elsewhere was Spencer Sanders, who was a starter at Oklahoma State. He went to Ole Miss. He was not the starter. That was Jackson Dart's team, and it'll be Jackson Dart's team once again this year. And Sanders, I'm pretty sure, is out of eligibility now. So maybe that comes to fruition here with the Will Howard, but this feels like it has changed from the feeling of a month ago or 2 months ago, where you would have assumed, Will Howard is going to start at Ohio State, but is there really something to the idea that Will Howard doesn't start at Ohio State this year?
Oh, yeah. I ain't got to wait a little bit to respond to that one, Spencer. Absolutely. There is a realistic opportunity that the Kansas State transfer won the Big 12 Conference Championship, beat TCU in that Big 12 Championship game, does not start at Ohio State. And I don't think that's a knock on him as a player. And that's not saying that he's not talented. That is just showing that the talent at Ohio State is so high right now that even a true freshman quarterback has a realistic opportunity to win the job over a seasoned quarterback, really experienced guy in Howard. Let's not forget Devin Brown. I know he is still here. I know he has played very little football in his career at Ohio State. I know last year he got on the field multiple times, got hurt, I think, before the season, got hurt in the season multiple times. And so he's a guy that is not only trying to win the job, also trying to have a healthy offseason as he just came off of an injury in the Cotton Bowl. So there's so many different angles, and I think Brown and Sayin are realistic opportunities, realistic guys that can win the job over Will Howard. Hearing Julian Sayin and saying Ryan Day is saying that Sayin is in the mix to be a quarterback and win the battle, that was not something I would expect right now this time of year, but that actually happened prior to the spring game. So I'm sitting here in my head like, could it be Sayin? Yeah, but he has to show you a lot. It's hard to trust a guy that young on a big stage like Ohio State. Does Devin Brown have an opportunity to win? Yes, but he also has to show you a lot, and you have to hope that he's healthy. But this situation for Ohio State, in the quarterback situation, a lot of teams around the country would love to have a room with this talent, from freshman all the way to the most experienced guy in Will Howard at their school.
Yeah, it's definitely the deepest quarterback room. And I've said multiple times on the show before, and still contend as the transfer portal opens today when this show is airing, one of these guys has got to leave, right? Like at least one, it feels like, is going to seek an opportunity elsewhere between the stacked number of quarterbacks and the struggle for playing time there and the caliber of guys in the room. I feel like at least one of these guys is leaving. Who do you think that would be?
Ooh, you got to put me on the spot. So there's two names that come to mind, and Ohio State fans may think I am crazy for saying this. Devin Brown and Lincoln Kienholz are two guys in my mind that if at some point right now, even though Brown might be in the mix, if he doesn't have some type of concrete feeling that he is going to be possibly the guy, and you're competing with these other two, do you really want to allow yourself to lose the battle once again, back-to-back seasons, and lose a year of eligibility potentially, depending on how many games you end up playing, to where you could go somewhere else and start and be a really good player and show everybody why you were recruited to Ohio State, why you were in contention to win QB1 and Columbus 2 years in a row. Just happened to be that the Buckeyes went out and got somebody else. I think if Ryan Day trusted Devin Brown to win the job at the end of last year, he probably wouldn't have gone out there and gotten Will Howard. But also, with Brown being talented but also injured twice in the same season, Day has to think he might be talented enough to win the job. Is he durable enough to last the entire season? These are thoughts going through Ryan Day's head. But Kienholz is another one. I believe he redshirted last year, so he has 4 more years to play. But I also think he is a guy. Now, maybe having to go down a little bit to start this year, but he is a guy that can come in, go to a new situation, and make some noise at a different school. I am also high on Kienholz. I really like him. I think he's really good. It's going to take him a couple years, 2 or 3 years, to just get up to speed with the level of college football, the play that is there, which is fine. I don't think Aaron Nolan's going anywhere. I think that him and Sand being in the same class, as Sand being in the mix to be a starting quarterback for Ohio State, helps Aaron Nolan realizing, one, he's going to redshirt, but also realizing I am not competing with anybody in my class to get on the field. That guy's already ahead of me. So they're in the same class, yes, but I think Sand has a better chance to get on the field this year than Aaron Nolan, which is why there's kind of a separator between Nolan and Sand. It's weird, man. I don't like talking quarterbacks leaving, but I think Brown's
It's a reality. It's just the reality. Options are going to be available. Like,
yes.
If would you rather be a 5th string quarterback at Ohio State or a 1st string quarterback at Memphis? Just to pick a random G5 out there as an option. And certainly these guys, when you look at their recruiting profiles, are all talented enough to be in that sort of conversation where they could go to maybe a high level group of 5 or a lower level Power 4 school and maybe be the most talented quarterback in that room right away. I want to get you out of here on a non-quarterback point, Jay. When you watched Ohio State's spring game on Saturday, what was your other number one takeaway after the quarterback situation?
The defense is going to be fine. The defense has no issues. The defense will be fine. The secondary is deep. I know there's a lot of angles to the defensive part here, but the secondary is deep. They might be too deep at guys that can play this year. That's how good they are at both corner spots, the nickel corner spot and also the 2 safety spots. They're going to be fine. They have guys coming in that are walk-ons that would go other places and be guys that could get in the rotation in the secondary. That's how talented this team is right now. Up front, you got guys like Tui Malowau and Tyleik Williams and Jack Sawyer. Ty Hamilton, don't forget him. Really good, solid defensive tackle. I do believe in a year from now he will get drafted into the National Football League. But backing them up, guys like Hero Canoe and Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Caden Curry, they're going to be fine. And the versatility with the linebackers, with Sonny Styles moving from safety to linebacker, CJ Hicks, a third-year guy, expected to either start or get a lot of play at linebacker. Then Cody Simon, the seasoned vet of that unit. I do believe the defense will be fine. Got to say one more thing here, Spencer. Defense is fine. I can't say the same thing about the offensive line. I'll leave it there.
Interesting times in Columbus, to say the least, for the Big Ten favorite, Ohio State Buckeyes. If you want to know more, Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, joining me here on today's show. Jay, thank you so much.
Really appreciated it.
So the portal is officially open. Now, lots of names are going to be in it. Here are two that you need to be aware of.